For millennia, whispers have traveled across the sands of time, carried by the winds of history, echoing tales of extraordinary faith, profound endurance, and the very foundations of nations. We speak of figures whose lives, though lived in a distant antiquity, continue to shape our world, our beliefs, and our understanding of the divine. Today, we embark on an unparalleled exploration into the life of one such figure, a woman whose journey embodies both the fragility and the formidable strength of the human spirit. Her name is Sarai, later known as Sarah. Her story is not merely a subplot within the larger narrative of Abraham, but a vibrant, complex saga that stands powerfully on its own. It is a chronicle interwoven with divine promises, human struggles, moments of doubt, and ultimately, an unwavering testament to hope against all odds. We will delve into every nuance, every challenge, every triumph, unearthing the profound lessons her life offers to us, even today. Before we journey deep into her world, if you find yourself intrigued by the ancient mysteries, by stories that challenge your perspective, and by narratives that illuminate the human condition, please take a moment to like this video. Your support helps us bring these vital stories to a wider audience. And to ensure you don't miss a single part of this monumental series, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We have an extraordinary journey ahead, spanning countless insights and discussions. We encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below at any point. Your reflections enrich this exploration for everyone. Our exploration of Sarah's life will transcend the conventional boundaries of biblical commentary. We will scrutinize the historical context, the cultural norms of the ancient Near East, the linguistic subtleties of the Hebrew text, and the myriad interpretations that have evolved across centuries and across different faith traditions. We will examine her character not as a static figure from a distant past, but as a dynamic individual grappling with universal human experiences, longing, fear, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of a promised future. We begin, as all stories must, at the beginning. Before she was called Sarah, she was Sarai, and her story truly commences in the vibrant, sprawling, and deeply polytheistic city of Ur of the Chaldeans, an intellectual and commercial hub of Mesopotamia. To truly grasp the magnitude of her journey, we must first understand the world she left behind. Imagine you're around 2000 BCE, not a barren wasteland, but a metropolis teeming with life, a crucible of early civilization. This was no primitive village. Ur was a monumental city, a crown jewel of the Sumerian civilization, adorned with colossal ziggurats, step pyramids dedicated to the moon god Nana. Its streets hummed with merchants, scholars, artisans, and priests. Its economy thrived on sophisticated irrigation systems, extensive trade networks that stretched across vast distances, and advanced administrative structures. This was a city of laws, of learning, and of pervasive religious devotion. For Sarai, and indeed for all who lived within its walls, life was utterly permeated by polytheism. The pantheon of Sumerian and Akkadian gods and goddesses dictated every aspect of existence, from the rising of the sun to the ebb and flow of the Euphrates River. The moon god, Nana, or Sin as he was known in Akkadian, was the patron deity of Ur. His immense temple complex dominated the city's skyline, its towering ziggurat a visible symbol of divine authority. Daily life revolved around rituals, offerings, and appeasing a multitude of deities, each associated with specific natural phenomena, human endeavors, or aspects of fate. Temples were not merely places of worship, they were economic powerhouses, landowners, and centers of learning. They employed vast numbers of people, from scribes who painstakingly recorded administrative data on clay tablets, to artisans who crafted elaborate cultic objects, to priests and priestesses who performed complex rituals. For Sarai, growing up in Ur meant a constant awareness of these powerful religious institutions, their influence shaping social structures, moral codes, and individual destinies. The air itself would have been thick with incense, the sounds filled with chants, and the visual landscape dominated by idols and divine symbols. Within this vibrant, yet religiously complex world, Sarai would have been raised. We can infer much about her early life by studying the social dynamics of the time. Women in Mesopotamia held a more complex position than often assumed. While patriarchal structures were prevalent, women were not entirely without rights. They could own property, engage in business, and even initiate legal proceedings in some cases. However, their primary societal roles were often tied to the household and family. Marriage was a cornerstone of society, often arranged with the primary purpose of ensuring lineage and continuity. Genesis introduces Sarai as the wife of Abram and the daughter of Terah, Abram's father, making her his half-sister. Genesis 22:12 clarifies this later, though this detail sometimes causes debate among scholars regarding its exact interpretation and the customs of the time. This familial connection is crucial. It places her squarely within the patriarchal structure of Terah's household, a family that, like many others in Ur, would have participated in the prevailing polytheistic worship. They were not yet monotheists. The call to Abram to abandon the gods of his fathers was yet to come. The ancient Near Eastern family unit, or Beth Ave, house of the father, was the fundamental social, economic, and religious entity. Loyalty to the Beth Ave was paramount. Decisions were made collectively, often by the patriarch, but the influence of women, particularly matriarchs, should not be underestimated. They managed households, raised children, and transmitted cultural and religious values. Sarai would have been trained in all the domestic arts, managing servants, preparing food, weaving textiles, skills essential for the survival and prosperity of any nomadic or semi-nomadic family. The first significant geographical shift in Sarai's life occurs when Terah, Abram, Sarai, and Lot depart from Ur. Genesis 11:31 states Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran they settled there. This move was a partial fulfillment of a call, or perhaps a premonition, though the full divine command to Abram would come later. Haran itself was another significant Mesopotamian city, also a center for the worship of the moon god Sin. While a move wasn't yet the radical departure from polytheism that Abram's later call would demand, Haran served as a crucial crossroads for trade routes, connecting Mesopotamia with Syria, Anatolia, and even Egypt. This meant a constant flow of diverse peoples, goods, and ideas. Living in Haran would have broadened Sarai's exposure to different cultures and languages. This period, though transitional, was vital. It was a time of consolidation for the family, a preparation for the even greater, more audacious journey that lay ahead. For Sarai, it was a chapter of life spent within familiar cultural parameters, but perhaps with a growing sense of unease or anticipation that something profound was on the horizon. As we consider Sarai's roots in Ur and Haran, what strikes you most about her initial environment? How do you think growing up in a polytheistic, sophisticated city might have shaped her perspective, especially when confronted with the idea of one singular God? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, sharing this video helps others discover these incredible insights. Your engagement fuels this epic journey. The pivotal moment in Sarai's life, and indeed in the trajectory of salvation history, arrives in Genesis 12. It is here that Abram, now the patriarch of the Beth Av after Terah's death, receives a direct, unambiguous, and utterly revolutionary command from God. Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Genesis 12:1-3. For Sarai, this divine imperative was momentous. It wasn't merely a suggestion. It was a profound, life-altering decree. Consider the radical implications. Leaving the familiar, they were to abandon everything known: homeland, family ties, cultural security, and the perceived protection of their gods, to an unknown land. The destination was undefined. Simply the land I will show you. This demanded an extraordinary leap of faith. Monotheistic implications. Though not explicitly stated as worship only me, the command to leave their gods implied a singular allegiance to the God who called Abram. This was a direct challenge to the polytheistic worldview of Ur and Haran, the promise of a great nation. This was the most astounding part of the promise, especially for Genesis 11:30 has already introduced a critical, painful detail. Now Sarai was childless because she was not able to conceive. This single sentence casts a long shadow over every subsequent event in her life. In the ancient world, a woman's value and legacy were inextricably linked to her ability to bear children, particularly sons. Barrenness was not just a medical condition. It was a profound social stigma, a source of deep personal grief, and often interpreted as a sign of divine displeasure. The promise to Abram, I will make you into a great nation, stood in stark, almost cruel contradiction to Sarai's physical reality. This paradox becomes the central tension in her story. How could a great nation come from a childless woman? This was not just Abram's problem, it was their problem. Her barrenness directly challenged the very foundation of God's promise. Her identity, her worth, her future, and her husband's future were all entangled in this biological reality. Genesis 12:4 states, So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. Sarai is explicitly named. Seer was not a passive bystander. Her decision to accompany Abram on this perilous journey, leaving behind all she knew for an uncertain future, demonstrated immense courage and trust. She was not merely taken, she was a co-traveler, a partner in faith. Her agreement to embark on this journey implies a shared belief in the divine call, or at the very least an unwavering loyalty to her husband and his vision. Imagine the challenges of this journey. Weeks, months, perhaps even years of travel across rugged terrain, exposed to elements, facing unknown dangers. They were nomads in a world of established cities and warring tribes. For Sarai, a woman accustomed to the relative comforts of Ur and Haran, this nomadic life would have been a profound adjustment. She managed a household, cooked over open fires, set up and broke down tents, cared for servants, and likely endured the physical hardships of constant movement. Her resilience during this period is often understated but was absolutely critical to their survival. They eventually arrived in Canaan, the promised land. But what did they find? Not a ready-made kingdom, but a land inhabited by others, the Canaanites. The promise of possession and a great nation remained just that, a promise. The immediate reality was one of continued struggle, uncertainty, and the glaring, painful fact of Sarai's barrenness. For Sarai, each day in Canaan would have been a stark reminder of the unfulfilled promise. Every encounter with a fertile woman, every sight of children playing, would have accentuated her own emptiness. The weight of societal expectations, combined with her personal longing, must have been immense. This period of waiting, of living with the paradox of a divine promise against a biological impossibility, profoundly shaped her character. It was a crucible of patience, faith, and perhaps, at times, despair. The journey from Ur to Canaan was not just geographical. It was a journey of faith, particularly for Sarai, whose barrenness stood as a direct challenge to God's central promise. What do you think sustained her during those long years of waiting? Was it pure faith, or something more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're finding this deep dive compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to join us as we uncover more layers of her incredible story. The first chapter of our exploration left us with a powerful, lingering question. How does one reconcile a divine promise with a deeply painful, personal reality? Sarai, the woman destined to be the mother of nations, was barren. This paradox, this profound test of faith, would not be the only challenge she would face. The very land God promised them, Canaan, failed to provide, forcing them to make a desperate and ultimately dangerous decision. In Genesis 12:10, a harsh reality intrudes upon the idyllic promise of the promised land. A severe famine strikes Canaan. This is a moment of profound crisis. Just as they arrive in the land God promised to show them, the very ground beneath their feet betrays them. This isn't just a natural disaster, it's a test of whether Abram and Sarai's faith is strong enough to trust in a God who, just moments before, promised to bless them, but now seems to have abandoned them to starvation. The choice is clear: starve or seek survival in Egypt. They choose Egypt. For Sarai, the journey to Egypt was fraught with both hope and dread. Egypt was not just another kingdom, it was a global superpower. A land of immense wealth, advanced civilization, and a powerful, centralized government ruled by a king revered as a living god, Pharaoh. But for an outsider, a sojourner like Sarai, Egypt was also a place of immense danger. The ancient world had little regard for the rights of foreign families. Their wealth and their safety were only as secure as the whim of the local ruler. As they approached the borders of Egypt, a new, more immediate fear gripped Abram. It wasn't the famine anymore, it was the beauty of his wife. Genesis 12:11 records his words to Sarai. I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me but will let you live. This is a deeply unsettling moment. Abram's fear of death is palpable, and it leads him to hatch a plan that puts Sarai in a position of extreme vulnerability. He asks her to pretend to be his sister. Now, let's pause here. Was this a moment of moral failure for Abram? A lapse in his faith in God's protection? Or was it a calculated risk born from a very real, life-threatening situation? The text doesn't explicitly condemn him, but it does show his fallibility. This action reveals a profound human flaw at the heart of the patriarch's story. It is a striking reminder that even the greatest figures of faith are not immune to fear and human weakness. This decision raises so many questions. What do you think motivated Abram? Was he protecting himself at Sarai's expense, or was it a desperate attempt at a strategy to save them both? And how did Sarai feel about this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective on this complex moment. If this analysis is shedding new light on the story for you, please like this video to help us spread this message. The plan works, but at a terrible cost to Sarai. The Egyptian officials, upon seeing her extraordinary beauty, praise her to Pharaoh, who then takes her into his house. The text says, and for her sake he dealt well with Abram, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. Genesis 12:16. This is a critical point in the narrative. We are told about Abram's fear and his subsequent wealth, but Sarai's voice is conspicuously absent. What was she thinking? What was she enduring? She is a pawn in a larger game, her physical safety and honor traded for her husband's life and material gain. Her silence in this moment is deafening. It forces us, the readers, to project ourselves into her shoes, and imagine the fear, the isolation, and the profound powerlessness she must have felt. She had left her home for a promise only to be offered up as a bargaining chip in a foreign land. Her faith was not just in God, but now also in the hope that her husband's risky plan, and God's providence, would somehow save her. But God, the one who called them and promised to bless them, does not stand idly by. Genesis 12:17 states, but the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his household with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. The plagues are a clear sign of divine displeasure and a direct intervention to protect the one in whose line the promise rested. It is a powerful message. God will not allow his covenant to be broken by human fear or fallibility. He protects the matriarch, the vessel of the promise, even when the patriarch fails. Confronted by the plagues and understanding their cause, Pharaoh calls Abram out. "What is this you have done to me?" he demands. "Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife, take her and go." Genesis 12:18-19. This scene serves as a powerful testament to God's sovereignty. Even in a powerful kingdom like Egypt, under the rule of a pharaoh, God's will prevails. The very ruler who was treated as a deity is brought to his knees by the God of Abram. The episode ends with Pharaoh sending Abram Sarai and all their accumulated wealth away. They leave Egypt richer than they entered, but the moral cost of the journey is undeniable. The experience in Egypt is not a victory for Abram's cunning. It is a profound lesson in God's grace and protection despite human frailty. The story of Sarai in Egypt is a raw and honest portrayal of the human struggle with faith and fear. It raises powerful questions about the nature of divine protection and the role of women in patriarchal narratives. As we continue this epic series, we will see how this experience shapes Sarai's character and her subsequent decisions. Don't miss what comes next. Subscribe to our channel to be the first to know when the next part drops. And if this deep analysis has given you a new perspective on this ancient text, please share this video with your friends and family. Your support is crucial for this journey. The journey out of Egypt left Abram and Sarai wealthier, but not necessarily wiser. The experience was a stark reminder of human fallibility and divine grace. They returned to the very place they had fled from, the land of Canaan, a place of promise, that was now a landscape marked by both a covenant from God and the scars of a recent painful past. This return, however, was not a simple reset. The very prosperity that God had granted them would soon become a new, unexpected source of conflict. Genesis 13 opens with a powerful image. Both Abram and Lot have become incredibly rich. Abram had become very wealthy in livestock, in silver and in gold. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents. Genesis 13, 5. Their prosperity, a direct result of God's blessing, creates an unforeseen problem. The land cannot support both their vast herds, leading to strife between their herdsmen. While the biblical text focuses on the men, we must consider Sarai's role in this. As the matriarch, she was responsible for managing the large household, the female servants, and all the day-to-day operations of their nomadic existence. The stress of this dispute would have fallen squarely on her. She would have felt the tension between her servants and Lot's, witnessing the daily friction that threatened the unity of their family. This conflict wasn't just about grazing land. It was a schism within the Bet-Ab, the very family unit upon which their future depended. Instead of fighting, Abram demonstrates remarkable humility and faith. He approaches Lot with a solution. "Let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herders and mine, for we are brothers. Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." Genesis 13:8-9. This act of selflessness is profound. As the elder and the recipient of the divine promise, Abram had every right to choose the best land for himself. Instead, he defers to his nephew, trusting that God's promise is not dependent on a specific piece of land, but on God's own providence. Lot, in contrast, makes a pragmatic, worldly choice. He looks out over the fertile Jordan Valley, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, and chooses to settle there, moving toward the city of Sodom. This choice, driven by a desire for easy wealth and comfort, places him in close proximity to a deeply wicked place, foreshadowing his later entanglement and need for rescue. Meanwhile, Abram and Sarai are left alone in the less fertile but perhaps spiritually safer region of Canaan. What do you think this parting reveals about the different values held by Abram and Lot? How does Abram's generosity and Sarai's silent acceptance of his decision speak to their growing faith? Share your insights in the comments below. If you are learning new things about these foundational biblical stories, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to continue with us on this journey. Immediately after Lot's departure, God speaks to Abram again. The promise, once again, is reaffirmed and expanded. "Look around from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west. All the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted." Genesis 13:14-16. This is a crucial moment for Sarai. The promise has been made before, but now it is repeated with even more dramatic hyperbolic language, like the dust of the earth. The divine promise is now a direct, impossible challenge to her biological reality. The word offspring zera in Hebrew echoes with a tragic irony for a woman who is, by all accounts, barren. Think about the psychological weight this placed on Sarai. Every time God spoke to Abram, the promise of a child was renewed, but so was the pain of her inability to conceive. The silence of her womb was not just a medical fact, it was a profound theological paradox. She had seen God's power in rescuing them from Egypt, in granting them immense wealth. She had seen his promise fulfilled in other ways, but this central, most personal promise remained unfulfilled. The years stretched on, and with each passing year, the biological impossibility of bearing a child became more acute. This is the core of Sarai's test. It is a test not of action, but of endurance. She is not fighting a king or a famine. She is wrestling with the relentless march of time, with societal pressure, with her own deep-seated longing, and with the apparent contradiction between God's promise and her physical reality. Her story, from this point forward, becomes a powerful meditation on faith in the face of the impossible. What does one do when the divine promise seems to mock your greatest pain? For Sarai, the answer was not to give up, but to take matters into her own hands. The years of waiting weigh heavily on Sarai. In our next installment, we will explore her decision to intervene in God's plan by introducing Hagar, her Egyptian servant. How do you think these long years of waiting shaped her? What do you believe she was feeling during this period of silent suffering? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and please share this video with someone who might be encouraged by a deeper look into these ancient stories of faith and human struggle. The tension in the air was as thick as the desert dust. Sarai had lived with a promise for over a decade, a promise that felt increasingly like a cruel joke. The divine word, spoken to her husband, echoed endlessly in her mind. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth. Yet her womb remained silent, a stark, painful emptiness. The years had not brought a son, only a profound sense of loss and the gnawing feeling of being forgotten by God. It was in this moment of emotional and spiritual exhaustion that Sarai made a decision that would forever change her life, her family, and the course of history. Genesis 16 begins with a chillingly simple statement that belies its immense complexity. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. She had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. This introduction of Hagar is not random. It's a direct reference back to their perilous sojourn in Egypt. Hagar was likely a gift from Pharaoh, a possession acquired at the very moment Sarai's honor was compromised. Now, in a twist of fate, this same woman, a symbol of a past moment of distrust, becomes the central figure in Sarai's desperate plan. To understand Sarai's actions, we must understand the cultural norms of the time. In the ancient Near East, a barren wife could, by law and custom, provide her husband with a slave woman to bear a child for her. This child would be considered legally hers, the heir of the household. This practice, known as a surrogate motherhood, was a socially acceptable solution to the immense pressure of barrenness. It was not seen as adultery, but as a means to ensure a family's continuity. The Code of Hammurabi, a famous set of laws from ancient Babylon, contains provisions for such arrangements, providing a historical backdrop for Sarai's decision. So, when Sarai says to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave, perhaps I can build a family through her," she is not acting out of malice or moral depravity, but out of a profound sense of cultural duty and a desperation born of years of unfulfilled hope. The statement is heartbreakingly logical from a human perspective. She had tried everything, and now, seeing no divine action, she resorts to a human solution that was both legal and common. Abram agrees without hesitation. The text simply states, Abram agreed to what Sarai said. This quick consent is telling. It shows that he too was weary of waiting and was willing to accept a human-driven shortcut to fulfill God's promise. The burden of providing the heir had been placed on Sarai's barrenness, and now she was trying to lift that burden using the tools available to her. But this seemingly simple solution was built on a foundation of human pain, and would lead to immediate and painful consequences. This moment raises crucial questions about faith and free will. Was Sarai acting in faith by providing a way to fulfill God's promise? Or was she demonstrating a lack of faith by not waiting on God's timing? Share your thoughts on Sarai's motives and Abram's swift agreement in the comments below. And remember, sharing this video helps us bring these vital, human stories to light. The moment Hagar conceived, the dynamic of the entire household changed. The hierarchy that Sarai had established was shattered. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to look at her mistress with contempt. Genesis 16:4. This is the inevitable, bitter fruit of a human-centered solution. The very woman who was supposed to be a tool for Sarai's legacy now saw herself as superior, carrying the promise that Sarai could not. Hagar's contempt was a direct, constant, and painful reminder of Sarai's barrenness and her perceived failure. Sarai, in her pain and rage, lashes out at Abram. "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she looks at me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me." Her words are a mix of accusation and despair. Abram, ever the passive partner in this conflict, gives her the worst possible advice. "Your slave is in your hands. Do with her whatever you think best." The text is blunt and shocking. Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. Sarai's actions here are a devastating portrait of human cruelty born of jealousy and shame. The woman who was once barren, who knew the pain of social stigma, now inflicts her own pain on another who is even more vulnerable. This is the moment where Sarai is at her lowest point. Her actions a betrayal of the very compassion she likely longed for. The promise, once a source of hope, has now led to strife, abuse, and the expulsion of an innocent woman. But once again, God does not abandon the story to human folly. He finds Hagar in the desert, a place of desolation and despair. An angel of the Lord speaks to her, tells her to return, promises her a son, Ishmael. God hears, and promises that his descendants will be too numerous to count. Hagar, in this profound moment, becomes the first person in the Bible to give God a name. You are the God who sees me, Eloi in Hebrew. This encounter is a powerful testament to God's mercy for the forgotten, the vulnerable, and the abused. The story of Sarai and Hagar is a timeless tale of the consequences of impatience and the tragic cycle of human pain. Sarai's attempt to force God's hand backfired, creating a schism that would have ripple effects for generations. And yet, even within this brokenness, God's promise remains, now to two women, in two distinct ways. The stage is now set for a new kind of waiting, one that will finally lead to the fulfillment of the original promise. Hagar's story is often overlooked, but her voice is one of the most powerful in Genesis. What does her encounter with God, and her naming of him as Eloi, reveal about God's character? Comment your thoughts below. If this deep dive is helping you see the humanity and complexity of these biblical figures, please like the video and subscribe to be the first to know when we release the next part of this epic series. We have much more to explore. The years that followed Hagar's return were a quiet prelude to a monumental shift. The household, though now containing two women and a child, continued its nomadic journey. But while Ishmael represented a human solution, the divine promise remained. And in the silence of the waiting, God was preparing to move in a way that would shatter all human expectations and redefine the very nature of faith. The time for the promise to be fulfilled was at hand, but it would not be without a final, extraordinary test of belief. 13 years passed between the birth of Ishmael and the next divine encounter recorded in Genesis. These were years of silence, years filled with the presence of Ishmael, a living reminder of human impatience. But then, in Genesis 17, God appears to Abram once more. This time, the encounter is different. It is a moment of profound covenant and personal transformation. God's first words to Abram are a command and a promise. I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you and will greatly increase your numbers. Genesis 17:1-2. The Hebrew phrase for God Almighty is El Shaddai, a name that speaks of God's power and ability to fulfill even the most impossible promises. The command to be blameless or perfect is not a call to sinless perfection, but to integrity, to walk in an unwavering and wholehearted trust in God. The covenant is sealed with two powerful, symbolic acts. First, God changes Abram's name to Abraham. No longer will you be called Abram, your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. Genesis 17:5. The change from Abram, exalted father, to Abraham, father of a multitude, is a radical declaration of a new identity. It is a name that looks forward, not to what he is, but to what he will become through God's promise. And then, the most significant change for our story, the transformation of Sarai's name. As for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her, and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Genesis 17. Kings and men of 16. The change from Sarai my princess, to Sarah princess or princess of a multitude is nothing short of miraculous. It elevates her status. She is no longer just the princess of her husband's tribe, but a princess in her own right, destined to be the mother of kings and nations. This change of name is a profound gesture of restoration and reaffirmation. It is a divine declaration that her barrenness, her past mistakes, and her pain do not define her. Her new name speaks a future of fertility and legacy, a future that she herself had given up on. The change from Sarai my princess to Sarah princess or princess of a multitude is nothing short of miraculous. It elevates her status. She is no longer just the princess of her husband's tribe, but a princess in her own right, destined to be the mother of kings and nations. This change of name is a profound gesture of restoration and reaffirmation. It is a divine declaration that her barrenness, her past mistakes, and her pain do not define her. Her new name speaks a future of fertility and legacy, a future that she herself had given up on. The change of names for Abraham and Sarah is a powerful theological statement. What does this renaming tell us about God's power to redefine our identities and destinies, even when we have given up hope? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this deep dive is opening your eyes to the layers of meaning in these stories, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to make sure you don't miss the next part of this epic journey. The divine promise is now cemented with a personal, direct encounter for Sarah. In Genesis 18, 3 men who are later revealed to be the Lord and 2 angels appear to Abraham. This is the ultimate test of Abraham's hospitality and Sarah's faith. Abraham immediately rushes to welcome them, offering them water, foot washing, and a feast of freshly baked bread, curds, milk, and a tender calf. This display of hospitality is a beautiful and culturally significant act of devotion. After their meal, the Lord asks Abraham, "Where is your wife Sarah?" Abraham replies that she is in the tent. Then, the Lord speaks the most direct and specific promise to date. "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and your wife Sarah will have a son." The text then tells us a crucial detail. Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure?" Genesis 18, 10-12. Sarah's laughter, like Abraham's, is one of disbelief, but it is also deeply personal. It comes from a place of weariness and sorrow, a private, inner thought born of a lifetime of longing and disappointment. Her body, her worn-out state, stands in stark opposition to the absurd promise she is hearing. She is not just laughing at the impossibility. She is laughing at the cruel hope that has haunted her for decades. But God, who is the God who sees me, also hears her silent laughter. He directly confronts her. Why did Sarah laugh and say to herself, "Will I really have a child, now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Genesis 18, Sarah, terrified and caught denies it. "I did not laugh," she said, but the Lord replies, "Yes, you did laugh." This is a profound moment. It is a loving but firm correction. It is God telling her that He knows her heart, her doubt, and her pain. He is calling her to a level of faith that she, in her human weakness, is struggling to reach. This final conversation is the ultimate testament to God's patience and His unwavering commitment to His promise. What is the difference between Abraham's laughter and Sarah's laughter? And what does God's response to her laughter reveal about His character? Comment your thoughts below. If this deep analysis is inspiring you, please share this video with a friend or family member who would appreciate it. Your support makes this work possible. The final act of this epic saga comes in Genesis 21. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as He had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what He had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son, Sarah bore him. Genesis 21. The birth of Isaac is not just a biological event, it is a theological one. It is the living, breathing, laughing proof that nothing is too hard for the Lord. The child's name, Isaac, he laughs, is a permanent memorial to the disbelief that preceded his birth. It is a joyous, triumphant answer to their laughter of doubt. Sarah's own words upon Isaac's birth are filled with a mix of joy and vindication. "God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." And then, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? "Yet I have borne him a son in his old age." Genesis 21, 6-7. Her laughter is now transformed. It is a joyous laughter, a shared laughter, a laughter that invites others to witness the miracle and share in her joy. Her life, once defined by barrenness, is now defined by the promise fulfilled. Her barren womb, a source of shame and pain, is now a testament to God's power and faithfulness. Sarah's story is one of the most compelling in all of Scripture. She is not a flawless icon of faith. She is deeply human, full of doubt, fear, and even moments of profound cruelty. And yet, it is precisely her humanity that makes her so relatable, and her story so powerful. She is the mother of nations, not because of her perfection, but because God was faithful to her, despite her imperfections. Her story is a timeless reminder that God's promises are not dependent on our strength, but on His. We have completed a long but incredibly rewarding journey through the life of Sarah. But this is just the beginning. There are so many more stories to uncover, so many more layers to explore. Subscribe to our channel to join us for our next epic series. And until then, may the story of Sarah remind you that no matter the circumstances, the last laugh always belongs to faith. The laughter that had been born of doubt was now a source of unending joy. Isaac, the child of promise, grew strong and healthy. For Sarah, every day with her son was a profound testament to God's faithfulness, a living, breathing miracle. But in the midst of this joy, a new, painful tension began to build. One that had been simmering just beneath the surface for over a decade. The peace of the household was about to be shattered by the conflict between two mothers and two distinct promises. Genesis 21:8 tells us that on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. It was a moment of celebration and public acknowledgement of Isaac as the legitimate heir. But for Ishmael, now a teenager, it was a moment of displacement. The text says, "And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing." The Hebrew word for scoffing, zahak, is the same root word as Isaac. This is no coincidence. It is a powerful, poignant irony. The name Isaac means he laughs. But here, his half-brother Ishmael is laughing in a different, more sinister way. This was not a playful tease. It was mockery. It was a direct challenge to Isaac's status and a painful reminder to Sarah that her son's inheritance was not undisputed, even within her own household. This act of mockery was the final straw. For Sarah, it was a moment of profound fear for her son's future. Her reaction is immediate, drastic, and, to modern ears, chillingly cold. She goes to Abraham and demands, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." Genesis 21:10. This demand is not simply an outburst of jealousy. It is a calculated move to secure her son's legacy. She saw that as long as Ishmael remained in the household, there would be a constant threat to Isaac's promised inheritance. Her past pain, her years of waiting, and her fierce maternal instinct all culminated in this one heartbreaking command. This is one of the most difficult passages in the entire Bible. Is Sarah's demand an act of cruelty or an act of protection? What do you think motivated her to cast out Hagar and Ishmael? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're finding this deep analysis compelling, please like this video and let us know. Sarah's demand distressed Abraham greatly because of his son. This is a crucial detail. Abraham was torn. Ishmael was his firstborn, the son of his own flesh, whom he had raised for over a decade. He was the child born from his and Sarah's attempt to fulfill God's promise on their own. The love of a father for his son is a powerful force, and Abraham's heart must have been broken by this demand. He was caught between his loyalty to Sarah and his love for Ishmael. Once again, God intervenes to clarify the path forward. But God said to Abraham, "Do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring." Genesis 21:12-13. God's words are a profound mix of command and compassion. He affirms Sarah's authority in this matter, validating her as the matriarch and the key to the covenantal line. He makes it clear that the promise rests with Isaac, not Ishmael. But in the same breath, God also shows mercy to Ishmael, promising to make him into a great nation as well. This is a testament to God's love for all of Abraham's descendants, not just the one through whom the main covenant line will flow. The next morning, a heartbroken Abraham gives Hagar some bread and a skin of water and sends her and Ishmael away. This is one of the most tragic and gut-wrenching scenes in all of Genesis. A mother and her son, cast out into the wilderness of Beersheba with no clear destination. Their story is a powerful reminder that even the fulfillment of a divine promise can bring pain, division, and loss. Lost and out of water, Hagar lays her son under a bush to die, unable to watch his final moments. She sits a short distance away and weeps, saying, "I cannot watch the boy die." But God, the God who sees and hears, does not abandon them. He hears the cries of the boy, opens Hagar's eyes to a well of water, and promises once again that he will make Ishmael into a great nation. With the departure of Hagar and Ishmael, a fragile peace settled over Abraham and Sarah's family. The rest of Sarah's life is marked by the quiet joy of watching her son Isaac grow into a man. She lived to be 127 years old, a remarkable testament to her endurance and the fulfillment of God's promise. When Sarah dies, Abraham goes to great lengths to secure her a burial place. He purchases the cave of Machpelah from Ephron the Hittite for 400 shekels of silver. This act is deeply significant. It is the very first piece of the promised land that Abraham legally owns. The burial of Sarah in this cave is a powerful symbolic act, a down payment on the fulfillment of the entire covenant. The mother of the promised nation is buried in the land promised to her descendants. It is the beginning of the land promise becoming a tangible reality. Sarah's story ends with her death, but her legacy endures. In the New Testament, she is celebrated as a woman of faith. The writer of Hebrews says, "By faith Sarah herself received power to conceive, even when she was past the age, since she considered him faithful who had promised." Hebrews 11:11. Her story is not about her perfection, but about her journey from doubt to unwavering trust, a journey we can all relate to. She is remembered not for her failures, but for the faith that allowed her to laugh in the face of the impossible and receive a miracle. From God we have journeyed through Sarah's life, from a pampered princess to a barren woman, to a mother of nations, and finally, to a pillar of faith. Her story is a timeless reminder of God's ability to use imperfect people to accomplish His perfect plan. What aspect of Sarah's life do you find most inspiring? Comment your thoughts below. And be sure to subscribe to our channel to continue this epic exploration of the heroes and heroines of the Bible.